First of all, thank you for joining me. I know it's been a long day for you, so I appreciate it. And today I'm going to talk about how to make development great again, or actually how to double your productivity, which is kind of the same thing, and who wouldn't want that? But first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Erez. I've been around for more than 20 years doing development, architecture. Past couple of years, I've been working at AT&T as part of their modernization effort, meaning moving lots of application to the cloud. And I just started a new position at Zim, which is Israel's shipping company. But most of what I talk about today is from experience in AT&T. So today I'm going to say a few words about productivity in general and developers' productivity, and review some tools and methods you can use to upscale your developers' productivity. Some of them are known, some of them are new. And I'm going to be brave enough to show everything live today. And so hopefully Wi-Fi and everything is will be okay. So let's start. Again, like I said in the beginning, who doesn't want to be productive, right? It's a hot topic in the last couple of years, lots of methods, lots of courses. Actually, it has enough material, not just for one session, but for like a full academic year on how to be productive. And I think that you can't ignore that, because you can't be productive as a developer if you're not productive, if you're wasting your time. And there are tons of methods. I'll just touch briefly 3 of them, which are important in general and in development. First of all, eliminate distraction, right? Because today, in the era of cell phones and internet and everything, it's very hard to keep focused. Imagine how things were, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, before the internet and the smartphone. You could have easily focused, right? You just had to take the plug of your phone, landline, out of the socket, and you were isolated from the environment. You could focus easily. Nowadays, every second an email, a WhatsApp message, beeps here, beeps there, very hard to keep focus. And I think researchers found that the younger generation, today's teenagers, have trouble focusing more than 10 or 15 minutes. So I don't know about you, but it's not easy for us as well. So do your best to shut everything off around you. And there are methods to help. For example, the Pomodoro method. Do you know what a Pomodoro is? Yeah, tell me. Sorry? Right, and I'll explain that, but I was asking about the meaning of the word. Tomato, right. So it came from someone that had a tomato-shaped watch or timer that you could set off time, and he found out that giving himself periodic breaks helped him to focus for longer times and be more productive. For example, you can work for 20 minutes or as long as you can while staying focused, and then take a break for 5 or 10 minutes. Again, it's personal. And by doing so, you can be focused for longer periods, and in time, they get longer and longer, and you can be more productive. Eating the frog is another method, namely doing the hardest thing or the stuff that you don't want to do, stuff that you hate to do, first thing in the day. Otherwise, we all know that we'll find some other things to do, and we'll never get to that because we don't really want to do that. But sometimes we have to. So making a habit of doing the stuff that we hate first can help us achieve more along the way. And development productivity is not different in this manner, but we are lucky enough to have lots of tools to help us be productive, which is not the case in other occupations. So we might as well take advantage of that. And we'd like to at least double our productivity with the following tools. Sorry. Okay, but before we can know if we did double our productivity, we'll first have to know how to measure it, right? Otherwise, we can't quantify it. And these are all features or measures that not very successful, at least not on their own, right? The amount of hours at work doesn't really mean that you're doing something in these hours. You might drink coffee or talk to your friends all day long and you don't achieve anything. A number of lines of code doesn't mean that they're not full of bugs, right? Or maybe you're writing code that doesn't actually achieve your company's business goals, or maybe you're writing stuff that is not important today. Again, the number of bugs as well is small number of bugs mean that you're more productive. Maybe you're not writing anything. And a high number of bugs means maybe that you're a lousy developer. So again, how fast you deliver things is nice, but is it buggy? Is it important? Did you do something meaningful? And self-publicity, we all know people that tells you about what they're doing and not necessarily doing it or doing the important stuff. So if not that, or at least not any of these lines on its own, someone offered that method, right? The number of, let's call it what the hells, during code review, right? But again, this is not really something you can measure easily and improve on it. So if you go to Wikipedia, it says that being productive is the quantity times the quality divided by the cost. And in our terms is writing lots of high quality code and do it fast. Which you might say it's kind of obvious, but we put it there. And now the question is how we can achieve that. The answer is simple nowadays, right? Automate. It's not a new thing, but lately, the past year and a half, tons of new tools, AI-based tools, and others have emerged to make the automation much easier. And if you're not using it already today, start considering it seriously. And you can apply it in many areas in your workplace. Of course, you're the only one who knows which areas require the most effort and where you have to improve. But it's easy nowadays. Again, you have tools for all of these areas. So focus in whatever you want. Okay, code generation is like the first and maybe the most known nowadays. And generating code is not new, but AI tools are. Lots of AI tools that generate code and help you either complete your code, smart completion, or even create a full-scale application. And in Zim, where I work now, they used to do pair programming. If you don't know what it is, it means that two developers are most of the time sitting together, and each one is giving his own angle about the code and spotting bugs. And it's very efficient, but you are wasting, so to speak, two people in one seat. And again, today, the second guy can be replaced. Yes, that's why the name Copilot. So you can double your productivity just by shifting from this method to using tools. And I can show you some interesting stuff in this area. So, first of all, yeah. And if there are seats up front, you can move forward, but I'll make it as large as I can. So code completion or stupid code completion was here for ages. Now I can see all the methods and the fields that this class have. And even before AI, it got more smart. So basically, I can now use getters and setters. Hope you see that on these fields without actually writing the getter and setter. It's a Java library that's called Lombok. And it can do many things. It can create constructors and stringify stuff, creating hash code functions, etc., which was a big improvement at the time. But again, we tell it what are the fields, and it generates stupid code, saves some boring work around it. But these days, we can do better, right? We don't have to write the fields anymore. And I'm talking about, let me try and, whoa, too much. How about that? Is it good enough? A little bit more, maybe. So today, like I said, using Copilot, for example, I don't have to write the fields at all, right? It completes them for me. Yeah, we can go on and on, right? So common stuff learned from other companies or even your own code base, so you can share objects, right? And it's not just field, of course. We can create a method. Yes, just by the name, I guess many people call it find max, which is a good thing. And if you're wondering what about specific business methods, again, it depends on your code base. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about machine learning models and how you can use them for your own specific code base. But this is just like a general example. And it can relate to specific object, right? So let's try. Sorry. Let's do find by name. If you can help me there. Yes. So now you can relate a student and a specific field taken from another file. So it's helpful and it saves time, but we can do even better, right? Let's talk about ChatGPT for a moment and other machine learning models you can use. You can actually write a full application, and we'll do just that in a second. But in case you're afraid you're going to lose your job, let's ask it. I hope you can see that. Well, it's definitely trying to relax us. It's not going to replace us, etc. But maybe it's just sophisticated and just want to keep us calm while replacing us behind the scene. No, I'm just kidding. I think that it's safe to say that if your work is monotonous and not creative, then you're basically a robot and you're going to be replaced by a better robot. But if you're creative and actually innovate and create something new at your work, you won't be replaced. It can just help you, like I've shown you. And you can actually save lots of time using it. So don't be afraid. I know that in many areas, people are reluctant about using AI tools. So let's start. I actually prepared some prompts to create an application. Also the screenshot in case it wouldn't work, but it seems to be fine now because I'm using the free version. So we're starting to create a Spring Boot application and just the main class for now. Thinking about it. Excellent. We see the main method, and we see the annotation above it saying it's a Spring Boot application, which is a good start. Now we'll do it in a multi-tier kind of application. Now I'm asking to create an API, right, that answers REST calls and give it the HTTP method I want it to handle, and I'm telling it to use repository class. Let's see what comes up next. A bit slow this time of day. While it's creating, I can start taking the next phase, is creating the actual repository, telling it about the entity, meaning the class that reflects the database. And I'm not even defining it, just telling it to use it. Okay, so very slow, but it's working on it. Well, just to save time, I'm sending the next one. Yeah, exactly. And you can see the stuff it generated last time here. I guess it's going to be very similar. It also added some examples so I can test it. And last thing, I asked it to generate the entity, and it did. Yeah, it's still slow enough, but it will get to that. But we won't wait for it because I already done that and took all the code into here, put it stuff that it generated, just tidy up the code. You'll be able to see that later on. Still slow. And we have a 3-tier application that we can actually run. Okay, and once it's executed, sorry, we can find it here and actually call this HTTP GET method and get the information about the student he mocked up for us. So it took us like, I don't know, 3 minutes to create a full-scale application from scratch, including the API and the controller repository, etc. You can do that in the front-end side as well, which is great. And if I wasn't cheap and actually paid for a ChatGPT license, I guess it would have been faster. So again, use it. Use it whenever you can. Why work hard? Let someone else do the job for you. The future is actually going to be very promising because ChatGPT is still waiting for your instruction to do stuff. And it doesn't have to be this way. This is like the low-level coding, and they're going to be the next stuff. If you think about programming languages in general along the years, we started with binary machine code and assembly, and later on the languages become more similar to English, right? If, then, and other commands that are basically understandable English. And so this is a natural next step, right? ChatGPT, you talk to it and it gives you the code, but you have to direct it one step at a time. Next phase is going to be much smarter. There's a project called Wolverine, like the character from X-Men, I think. And it can self-fill your code, right? It examines the compilation results, and if there are errors, it can take the error message, go to ChatGPT, tells it about the error, get the fix, apply it to your code, and try again. So you're going to have self-filling code. You're going to stop worrying about creating bugs in the near future. Two other interesting projects, especially the last one, the GPT pilot is interesting, are taking the atomic step that ChatGPT can give you and manage it for you. You can give them a task, create in our field, create a web application with front end and back end, and the application should do A, B, C, for example, and it will do that for you. So again, it can currently do more general application because it doesn't know your business logic, but you can teach it. We'll soon see how. And another next step that is using speech to text, right? Why writing? It will take more time. You can just sit on the beach with a cocktail and talk to your watch or whatever device you want, and ChatGPT will create everything for you. And the understanding of the business requirement is the missing link, but I guess it's going to be completed soon enough. So this is the future. Now, privacy is always a consideration. I know that some organizations have banned ChatGPT completely. Anyone in this room works in a company that not allowing? Whoa, quite a lot. That's a shame, but there are stuff you can do, right? First of all, there is a risk because you actually send data to OpenAI each time you use it, and sometimes you don't want your precious code appearing in the public domain. But first of all, you can use open source model. Do you know Hugging Face? It's like a GitHub for a machine learning model. You can just take a suitable model for there, or you can use Facebook's Llama or Llama 2 and run them in your own company inside the network. And usually models by themselves are considered safe enough. They're not changing anything. And there are like at least 3 ways to customize large language models. You can do what's called prompt engineering, meaning giving while talking or prompting the model, you can add a context, right? You can tell it, for example, at the beginning of ChatGPT, it was common to tell him that, for example, he's a pirate. Answer me as a pirate for some questions, or you're a cowboy from the Wild West, and make him behave in such that one. You could tell him he's a software developer, he's working in a such and such company, and the working standards are this and that. And now give me a piece of code according to those standards. So it's kind of customization, but it will have to go in each prompt, or at least in each session that you do with it. You can do context embedding, meaning without retraining the model, you can add, for example, content from your company's document, right? So it will actually know your business. There is a simple process. Again, nowadays you have frameworks and tools to do that, that turns the text into the kind of embedded vectors that these models use. and it can be part of its own knowledge base, so we can answer specific questions about your company. And the last thing you could do is do a fine tuning. You can usually only the last layer in the network is retrained and changed to trained on specific data that you have that is specific for you. But this last one takes more effort and more knowledge, so it's more rare if you're not a machine learning company. But many companies employ at least, I don't know, one data science guy or machine learning engineer, so it may be possible for you. And at the end, inside your network, you have a machine learning model that you can use for code completion. And it also, as a plus, learn stuff that is specific for your company. So it can be even better than the general model. So consider that as well if your company has blocked the usage of ChatGPT. Error correction, another library which is actually not AI, not just AI out there. A library that's created by Google, and it can actually fix error, and not just a compilation error, but any error that may be. So let's take a look at this method. So please tell me what's wrong with this method. I'm trying obviously to compare two string arrays. What's wrong with that? Sorry? Right. If you're a Java developer, first thing that you learn is not to use like the equality signs, but to use the equals method, and it becomes like a second habit to you. But in some cases, it will be wrong. It doesn't do the correct comparison that I want here. I obviously want to compare the actual elements of the array, not just the references to these arrays. And so I accidentally wrote that, and it's not a compilation error. So the compiler won't complain about anything. It's a valid Java code. But with Errorprone, you can, as part of the build, to add some rules to catch this kind of errors. And it comes with a quite large list of rules and errors that it can catch, and you can add your own according to your own standards and experience. So if we try to build, we get an error, which is expected in this case. And it tells us that reference equality has been used to compare arrays, which is probably wrong. And did you mean that? Which is nice, but it can get better. If we want to, we can let Errorprone fix our code automatically, kind of like the Wolverine project that I've mentioned. So let's try and do that. Sorry? I'm changing it just for demonstration. In real life, you choose one of them. Either you wanted to fix the error or just alert. So this is just for demonstration purposes. Let's do a short clean and try again. And it changed the code for us. So once you apply enough rules, you can catch most of the common errors for your developers. Yes. The what? Sorry, there? It's a good question. I'm not sure if but it can. If you set up the proper rules, it will catch that as well. So you're right. Yeah, but in this case, it's usually you don't write tests for equality, so you won't catch it. You probably unless you're testing some business logic that is based on this equality. But even that you'll have, unless you're doing test-driven development, you might only write tests later on in the process, or even not at all. For example, usually existing companies which are not startup have like a large code base that some of it may not have tests. And applying this library might find some errors without the effort of writing the test. Now I'm saying an effort, but I'm soon going to show you how to generate tests automatically. So in any case, you're covered. So that was error correction. Documentation, again, task that nobody likes. Nobody likes to write documentation. And even if you're very strict, again, you might have older code bases that are not documented. And nowadays, you have tools to do it for you. I'm going to use Mintlify. And I'm going to ask you a few questions just to make sure you're awake. Starting from easy to harder, what this method is doing. Right, so it's average. Well, it's maybe too big. So let's ask Mintlify to generate the documentation for it. And take that aside. I can take it anymore, sorry. Yes, and it works fine. It calculates the average of an array of doubles, which is good. Next, what does this function is doing? Right. Reversing the given string. Actually, it's written quite straightforward, so it's in a medium difficulty. Return the reverse of that string, and you didn't have to waste time thinking about it. Now, imagine that your roommate has just died yesterday, and you're inheriting all this code, and you're seeing this method, and you're asking yourself, what does this function do? Sorry? Right. So it's a bit of a cryptic way to do the swap. Let's see how it can handle it. Yeah, just swapping the values. Okay, so these are just like 3 simple examples, but I guess you all encountered like functions that are too long, hundreds of lines of code that is very hard to understand and break. Now with Mintlify and ChatGPT, you can break them to several functions and get it documented for you. By the way, another thing that ChatGPT can do, which is also useful, is migrating from languages, right? If you have old COBOL or natural code in your company, in case you're working for a bank or an insurance company or a government office, you can use ChatGPT to modernize it. So it might save you a lot of time and money as well. Generating tests, we mentioned that. So let's do that just for the sake of example. Again, nobody likes to write tests. So if I had this simple function, I can ask it to do it for me, right? To positive, to negative, whatever. And again, oh, it already completes the test for me. Don't even have to write the description. And using combination of ChatGPT and Copilot, you can ask ChatGPT to come up with test descriptions for you, as many as you like, and generate it with Copilot, leaving you, again, just the creative tests that ChatGPT wouldn't think of. Some edge cases or some other stuff related specifically to your business that it cannot think about. But still it can cover, I don't know, 70% of this tedious work, which is, again, a great improvement. At the end, you'd like to combine everything into your CI/CD procedures, right? And you can do a lot of stuff, among them code quality checks, vulnerabilities, right? Stuff that you do today. Again, you can auto-document all the code and not think about it, again, and not waste time for it. You can apply some code fix, either Wolverine or Errorprone or whatever AI that will come up next to fix all the errors that you actually inserted, and of course, generate the tests to verify that nothing has escaped during this process. So it's going to be fun. Last thing I want to talk about is the no-code or low-code movement. Anyone is using it today? Only one person? Wow. You should do it more. Okay. I know that developers hate low-code tools. They don't think it's development, but again, it will only do the boring stuff that you don't want to do yourself, leaving you the creative stuff. And it's easy and it can be fun. Let's look at a tool, open source one called Node-RED, and build some process. There's an API that returns a CSV file of the latest earthquakes that has been in the last couple of weeks. There used to be a big one in Morocco, but I think it was more than 2 weeks ago. So I'm starting with something that repeat every 5 minutes. I can, of course, trigger it on my own. Let's do an HTTP request. I'll copy the URL from here. So as you can see, it's fairly easy to do API calls. And let's take the answer and parse it, saying that the first row is actually the header. We'll add the debug node to see what the raw data is looking like. And we can also do some processing of the result. Let's say if the magnitude of this earthquake is larger than the number, I don't know, 6.5, do something. And we want to change, in this case, we want to change the payload to something appropriate. And last thing we want to do is print out the outcome again. So now all we have to do, it's running inside the Docker container, so it's easy to start. We deploy, and now we'll trigger execution. And what do we have? And not sure if I can, yes. So the first, the debug one node is actually printing all the information inside the CSV with the magnitude of the earthquake. We have one at least above 6.5. Actually, we have two, and those rows with a larger magnitude earthquake was replaced. So in like, I don't know, 3 minutes, including explanation, we created a process that called an API method and process the results, and in this case, printed them out, but you can send it to a database, to another service, do whatever you want with it. So you can implement simple business processes real fast, which is great. Again, I'm not sure why people are against these tools. They can save you time and effort. And again, you can later code the interesting parts or do a side project in the spare time that you have now. So lastly, takeaways from this meeting. First of all, look at what you have now. Look at your process, look at where stuff is not good enough or where you're wasting too much time doing. Apply not just AI tools, other tools as well. For code generation, using low code when possible, apply it into the CI/CD process, and make sure that you only left with the creative part, and then you can grab a cocktail and relax. So this is like estimation, not just from my team or group, also taking from other sources in the internet. This is like an average percentage. So we kind of doubled the productivity and removed the boring part. And what's next? Like we said, things are going to be even more smarter. So you just be able to describe the application to them and maybe perform some control over the outcome, and left with creating new stuff entirely that AI tools doesn't know about. Thank you for listening. And do you have any questions? Yes. Sorry, I can hardly hear you. Again, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, it's me probably after this a long day. Mm-hmm.
You are mentioning a lot of good tooling I want to find out.
Cool.
But some of them have limitation, not in the CI data to third party and such. And like a Mintify and Google Errorprone, do they have such a limitation?
And no, they don't. And like I said before, first of all, if you didn't hear her, like I did, she's asking about limitation of all the tools that I've mentioned. Some of them, like the AI models that use as a service, actually keep the data. So it might be a problem, but like I said before, most of them, I think that nowadays all of them have like open source replacement that you can use in your own company, on your own premise, and it solves the problem. And in addition, like I've mentioned, you can train them to know specific stuff about your own company, standards, document, and give you better answers.